House Republicans are considering legislation that would cut resources for the American people in order to provide more military funding to Israel's government as they annihilate Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip. Now, the resources would essentially help the IRS ensure that millionaire tax dodgers are no longer able to dodge paying their taxes. But House Republicans aren't in favor of that kind of funding, so they want to cut it. The legislation released by the House Rules Committee calls for approving roughly $14 billion, primarily in military aid to Israel, and cutting about the same amount from the IRS budget. Now let's hold up for a second, because some of you might be thinking, no one likes the IRS. And I can understand why you might feel that way. The IRS in recent years has mostly focused its efforts on auditing individuals that are far more affordable to audit, if you will. So if you are a low income earner and there's some issue with your taxes, you're likely to get audited by the IRS. Wealthy people who dodge their taxes typically don't get audited by the IRS because historically it has been gutted of resources thanks to the Republican Party. And so since it costs way more money to audit the complicated taxes of the wealthy elite, they have focused their energy on normal, everyday working people. Now, one of the good things that Biden did was he ensured that there was money allocated for the IRS in order to solve this problem. $80 billion. That $80 billion was part of the Inflation Reduction Act. Not only was it meant to hold the wealthy elite accountable, it was also meant to, bring revenue into the federal government. And on top of that, the IRS was gonna use those resources to offer a free tax filing service so ordinary Americans can file their taxes for free without paying a ton of money, having an accountant or CPA do it instead. Now, with that context in mind, let's talk about what House Republicans are doing. So the new House Speaker, a far right winger by the name of Mike Johnson, has said that this new expenditure for Israel must be covered by other spending reductions to avoid adding to the debt. Now, of course, anytime a Republican pretends to be concerned about the debt, I can't do anything other than roll my eyes, considering they were the first to sign off on massive tax cuts for the rich, which cost $2 trillion. With that said, President Biden has proposed giving Israel roughly $14 billion in additional military aid, but he did not call for offsetting that by cutting from other programs. And keep in mind, Biden has already agreed to cutting the $80 billion that was allocated for the IRS in order to raise the debt ceiling. That was part of the negotiations he engaged in with Kevin McCarthy. So that cut that funding from 80 billion to 60 billion. Now Republicans want to cut it more. And what's amazing about this story, guys, is that they're not even hiding what their intentions are here. They're making it very clear that they just want to protect the rich. So let me give you more from the reporting. The legislation reflects the GOP's ongoing determination to undo the IRS expansion that Biden secured in 2022, which boosted the agency's funding by 80 billion to improve taxpayer services and pay for more enforcement actions against wealthy tax cheats. Now, every Democrat has said that they're against this proposal by Republicans, except for one. Who is it? Let me give you the details and get a load of the transparency in this statement. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, a conservative Democrat, left the door open to supporting a bill that clawed back the money from the IRS. The IRS needs money for technological modernization, he said, but could do without money for increased tax enforcement on high income earners.
Wow.
It's amazing.
How's that for telling on yourself? How's that for saying, I'm a bitch of the rich and I serve them like an effing servant? You lick their boots too, Joe Manchin? I bet you do. I bet you do. If a donor tells you, hey, I got a big fat check for you. Come here, little doggy. Joe Manchin's on the ground, licking their goddamn boots.
Cenk, sorry to interrupt you, but I have to add one other thing. Remember, we're not just talking about politicians looking out for their wealthy donors. We're also talking about politicians looking out for their wealthy selves. Because Joe Manchin makes a lot of money. I mean, he makes $500,000 a year alone on his family-run coal business.
Yeah, he owns a coal mine. He makes tons of money from that. He lives on a yacht. He literally lives on a yacht. And this guy's like, I'm a West Virginian. Are you? You live in a yacht in Washington, okay? Oh, I'm a moderate, and oh, I got all my corporate propaganda in the world. I mean, cable news telling you I'm a moderate. What part of this is moderate? To help the rich? Cheat on their taxes? You think that's a moderate position? That's a disgusting, extremist, radical position that almost no one in the country agrees with. So go ahead, cable news, call them moderate one more time. Go ahead, New York Times, Washington Post, call them moderate one more time. In reality, over 80% of Americans want to raise taxes on the rich, and almost 99% want the rich to pay their taxes and not cheat on their taxes. But Joe Manchin, with a position of supported by approximately 1% of Americans, is called a moderate 24/7. Okay, this story is perfectly symbolic. First reason is the one we just mentioned. The second reason is the Republicans say, oh yeah, we'd love more war, funding more war. So it goes to all the money goes to the defense contractors, and then they funnel some of it back in bribes, campaign contributions back to us. We love it, but we won't fund that war that we actually, of course, are gonna fund no matter what, unless you give us more tax breaks. But in this case, it's literally, unless you allow our rich donors to cheat on their taxes, to cheat and rob the average American taxpayer. Is there a single Democrat in the country who is speaking with clarity on this issue? I mean, the Republicans are handing you a gift. They're saying we want the rich to cheat on their taxes and to rob the average American. And the Democrats are like, how do I fight back? I don't know. And Jesus Christ, man. The Democratic Party is in shambles. Is there not one strong Democrat that is ready to level these Republicans?
No.
And no, there is one, it's empirical, none of them, totally useless. And second of all, part of the reason they're neutered is, but Joe Manchin is one of our frickin' colleagues, and it would be impolite to a colleague, so we're all sitting there groveling and doing goddamn nothing to fight back.
There are few things as shameful in this country than the Democratic Party, and
that's in a story.
Their weakness, which honestly, increasingly, I really question whether it's weakness. Anyway, with that said, I just want to add one final note to this story that's really important, because the notion that gutting the IRS with the resources necessary to hold wealthy tax cheats accountable is gonna offset the costs of sending $14 billion to Israel, it's laughable. Because remember, the whole point is to claw back money from the tax cheats that have been getting away with not paying their taxes, okay? Let me give you one number, although this is an underestimate. We did a story about this last week that showed just how much money the IRS has already raked in from these tax cheats, thanks to the resources that were allocated to them. Let's go to the last graphic here. Using the IRS funding to offset the Israel aid might not actually save money. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has estimated in 2022 that the $80 billion IRS expansion would cut the deficit by more than $100 billion by improving collections and enforcement.
That means that it would raise not 100 billion, it would raise 180 billion to reduce the deficit by 100 billion. I have stats in my book that show you that actually the IRS sometimes gets $24 back for every dollar it spends on enforcement. And remember, all of that money is from tax cheats. People who are super wealthy, but cheating on their taxes anyway, because they want you to pay the taxes and not them. And they know the IRS will crush you because the Republicans and Joe Manchin empowered them to crush the working poor, but to leave their beloved rich alone. Now, so in the middle of the story, Anna told you how sick she is of the Democratic Party. Now, in the midst of a story about how the Republicans are the worst, why? Because no one in the Democratic Party will fight for us. We can't find one single person to fight for us. The Republicans are the worst of the worst, and they scream it from the rooftops. And this is a layup, this is a gimme, this is the easiest thing in the world. And yet we still can't find one Democrat with courage. Just one with courage to fight back against Republicans. No, They all lay down, and they think it's sophisticated to be cowards and to not fight back against these monsters. Give me one strong Democrat and we'll run these guys out of town. But no, the media and politicians in Washington say the Democrats should be weak. They should be servile. They should sit at the feet of the Republicans and never challenge them. God damn it, fight! Fight for the average American and you would be intensely popular. On top of everything else, all of these Democratic leaders are so stupid. Just one of you, just fight for the average American and you'll be the most popular person in America overnight. But no, oh yeah, but my donors won't like me. God damn it, your corruption disgusts me. Both parties.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us, become a Young Turk.